only talking about Paramatma or Krishna. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In the previous verse, two significant words are used. Asamsakha, meaning without attachment, and buddha, meaning fully cognizant of everything. By full cognizance, it is meant that one should know about his own constitutional position as well as the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that doesn't mean you have to know differential calculus or nuclear physics or the history of the world, the history of World War II. You don't have to know those things. What you have to know is the constitutional position of the living entity, you and me. What is our constitutional position? We're the eternal servant of Krishna. And we have to know the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one's equal to Him or greater than Him. He's the source of everything. And those persons who know this surrender unto Him and engage in His devotional service. So that's what you have to know. That's called fully cognizant. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura, in this verse, Lord Vishnu is describing Himself or the Paramatma. The Paramatma is always distinguished from the embodied soul, as well as the material world. Therefore, He has been described as Para. That Para, or Supreme Personality of Godhead, is Eka, meaning one. The Lord is one, whereas the conditioned souls embodied within the material world exist in many varieties of form. There are demigods, human beings, animals, trees, birds, bees, and so forth. So, Krishna has Eka Rasa. That means when He appears as Matsya avatar, it looks like a fish, but He has full power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's actually non-different. When we appear as a worm, we don't have the same potential that we did when we appeared as a human being. So we don't have Eka Rasa. Being one in every situation or in every body. Our bodies change and our potential changes. When Krishna appears as a little baby, He has the same power as when He's an adult in Dwarka. Therefore, He was able to kill the Sankakuta demon, the cart demon. And He was able to kill Putana, whose real size is 12 miles long. She'd be the greatest basketball player in the world. She's not 7 feet tall, she's 12 miles long. Right? So, Krishna he's Eka, he's always one. He's not different than Himself. He doesn't have less potency when He appears, when He expands as Balaram or expands Himself in the Rasa Leela dance. He expands Himself so that he can dance with 16,108 gopis. And each gopi thinks he's only dancing with him. Now, yogis are able to expand themselves 8 times. That means there's 9 of them, right? But each expansion is doing exactly the same thing as the original one. Whereas Narada Muni saw with his own eyes that Krishna was expanded into 16,108 forms in Dwarka, and He was doing different things simultaneously in each palace with His wives and His different sets of kids and His different wives. So yogis can't do that. That's why Krishna is called Yogeshwara, the Supreme Master of all yoga. Okay, so according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in this verse, Lord Vishnu is describing Himself or the Paramatma. The Paramatma is always distinguished from the embodied soul as well as the material world. Therefore, He has been described as Para. That Para, or Supreme Personality of God, is Eka, meaning one. The Lord is one, whereas the conditioned souls embodied within the material world exist in many varieties of forms. There are demigods, human beings, animals, trees, birds, bees, and so forth. Thus, the living entities are not Eka, but many. As confirmed in the Vedas, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. The living entities who are many and who are entangled in this material world are not pure. However, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pure and detached. So, this verse, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vitadati Kamam, it's saying that Krishna is the Supreme Eternal amongst all eternals. So every living entity is eternal. You and I are eternal. But we happen to be trapped in a temporary material body right now. However, Krishna is the unique eternal amongst all eternals. Why? Because he's maintaining all the others. The others can hardly maintain themselves. In fact, we can't maintain ourselves without Krishna's help. So we see that Krishna is the unique eternal amongst all eternals. Therefore, again, he's Eka. The living entities who are many and who are entangled in this material world are not pure. However, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pure and detached. Due to being covered by the material body, the living entities are not self-effulgent, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, is self-effulgent. So we need light bulbs and electricity and so many things. We're not self-effulgent. Also, we're not completely pure. We're entangled in the material world due to material desires. So these are all differences between ourselves and Krishna. This is part of knowledge or cognizance, to understand these differences. Whereas the Mayavadis, they claim, oh no, you do a little meditation, you become Bhagavan. That means they're completely ignorant of who Krishna is. They have no real knowledge of who God is. They think that they can emulate God in some way or other, which is impossible. But if you're stupid or ignorant, then you can believe such things. So when a person reads Mayavad philosophy, they become really stupid because they start believing things that were never true. And that's called not only being stupid, that's called being an illusion. The definition of illusion is to believe something true that was never true. Not once in the history of the whole world was that thing true. So it's never true, and it was never true that we can become equal to Krishna by some yoga process. So there are many things like that. Like, for example, people say, you go to school and you study a science book, and it says, originally there was a Big Bang. What? What Big Bang? What are they talking about, Big Bang? Right. I know, but was it ever true that originally there was a Big Bang? No. So that's an illusion, right? So they call that science, and they're teaching that to kids. Everything started with a Big Bang. So these things are illusory, and there are many things like that. I mean, if we went through the list of all the illusory concepts that people accept as true today, and you would be shocked. It's not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It runs into the millions. And unless we become free of those misconceptions, we cannot we cannot achieve the real goal of life, that is, develop love of Krishna, go back to Godhead. There are millions of misconceptions that we've been fed from childhood into our adult life. And every day, there's more of them coming at us through newspapers, through political discourse, through books, science books, philosophy books, and so forth. So it's unbelievable, all the layers of illusion that we are covered by. The living entities who are many and who are entangled in this material world are not pure. However, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pure and detached. Now, there's another difference. Can any of us say that we are really detached? Can you say that? No. We all have attachments. And attachments to temporary things. right? So as long as we're attached to temporary things, we have a blurred vision of reality, very blurred. It's like being in a cloud when you're flying, 35,000 feet up in the air, and you're going through a long period of clouds and turbulence. If you look out the window, you don't see anything. You just see some white, smoky stuff, right? That fog is in our brain also. It's not just at 35,000 feet. It's in our brain, the same fog. So we're not actually seeing reality right now. We see things, but we don't see the reality of those things. More than that, the fog is amplified by misconceptions. Many, many misconceptions. And therefore, it's almost impossible for us to see things correctly. Therefore, we need to regularly hear every day Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam to clear away that fog. Due to being covered by the material body, the living entities are not self-effulgent, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, is self-effulgent. The living entities being contaminated by the modes of material nature are called saguna, whereas Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is nirguna, or not being under the influence of the material modes. Now, the saguna and nirguna concept is another source of bewilderment, because the Mayavadis speak about saguna and nirguna, but they define them in an illusory way. And most people believe that illusory definition of saguna and nirguna. Saguna means with material qualities. Nirguna means without material qualities. So, the Mayavadis say that the absolute truth is nirguna. He doesn't have a body, can't talk, can't walk, can't see. In other words, he's blind, he's paralyzed, he's dumb because, he can't talk, right? So usually, previously, they would refer to people who couldn't talk as dumb. It doesn't mean they're stupid. It means they can't express themselves. And he can't taste, so Mayavadis think, oh, you're offering food to Krishna. Oh, isn't that sentimental? And, in other words, they think, well, he can't taste anything. There's no he anyway, and they absolutely can't taste anything. So this is all just sentimentalism. So their understanding of nirguna is incorrect. And nirguna only means that Krishna is not affected by the modes of material nature. So we can't say that we're nirguna, we're saguna. That means we are affected by this material nature. Very, yes. We get angry, we get frustrated, we get envious, and all these things, all because of the modes of material nature. And therefore, not being under the influence of material nature, the living entities being encaged in material qualities are gunasrita, whereas the Supreme Personality of God is gunashraya. So gunasrita means you take shelter under the modes of material nature. Gunashraya means the modes of material nature are under the Lord's supreme power. So the conditioned soul's vision is covered by material contamination. Therefore, he cannot see the cause of his actions, and he cannot see his past lives. So we can't see hardly anything correctly, right? And therefore, one example of that is the majority of people that live in Alachua. The majority of devotees that live in Alachua vote Democratic. That is a symptom of ignorance. Now, voting Republican is also a symptom of ignorance, but most of the devotees in Alachua will voice their opinion about voting Democratic. Is that right? Yes. So I'm not lying. I'm not making this up. And that is ignorance, actually. I won't explain that anymore, but you get the idea. The conditioned soul's vision is covered by material contamination. Therefore, he cannot see the cause of his actions, and he cannot see his past lives. Well, Arjuna says, hey, Krishna, you tell me that you spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Vivaswan in the beginning of time? But hey, you're only like 125 years old today. How is this possible? Right? And that was a good question. It's not an inappropriate question. So Krishna says, Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacha Arjuna. Tanyaham Veda Sarvani Natvam Vedas Parantapan. He said, hey Arjuna, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. So this is another major difference. Krishna knows all of his appearances. And Arjuna, he can hardly remember what he did yesterday, let alone remember all his previous births. And the second thing is that Krishna can see all his past appearances. Arjuna can't remember any of his past lifetimes. Can you remember your past lifetimes, Arush? No. So there's a big difference between you and me and Krishna. You see, this is all part of knowing everything or being fully cognizant. You have to know how Krishna is different than us. But the Mayavadis will claim that no, you have to reject Krishna to know what the truth is. Now, how can you reject Krishna to know what the truth is? They claim that Krishna is the sum total of tamasa buddhi. That means that Krishna is the incarnation of intelligence and ignorance. That's why it says that the Mayavadis are the worst aparadis, or offenders of Krishna. Worse than the demons. That means they are also demons. But bigger demons than the ones that eat people, and like Ravana. Even bigger demon than Ravana, because of their offensive nature against Krishna. So yeah, and then Krishna says, you know, I went through many births, many appearances. I can remember it all. And then he says, Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam iswarupi sam pakritim swamadistaya sambhavami atma mayava. 4th chapter, 6th verse of Bhagavad Gita. He says that although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So his transcendental body never deteriorates. Is our body going to deteriorate? It's deteriorating every second. This is another major difference between us and Krishna. Therefore, anyone that tells you, oh, the subject of today's lecture is that you are God, well, you know, you should immediately stand up and walk out, because that's not a lecture. That's a lesson in ignorance. Right? So most seminars are lectures in ignorance. You should be very careful before you choose to go to a seminar, because you should study first, not the seminar, but the person who's giving the seminar, to see if they're not a paradigm themselves of ignorance. In other words, before you accept a teacher, you should first examine their lifestyle and their beliefs and their practices, meaning lifestyle. If they're smoking, drinking, gambling, and all that stuff, they're not a teacher. They are a torturer. They will torture you with ignorance and instill it in you, like, you know, like you get a syringe and you instill, you puncture the skin and get into a vein, and you insert some foreign thing into your bloodstream. So that torturer is not a teacher, he's a torturer. He's going to instill fake news into your brain and claim that it's true. And it could take a lifetime to get that out again. Okay. Okay, and now it says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not being covered by a material body, is the witness of all the activities of the living entity. But both of them, the living entity and the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are Atma, or spirit. They are one in quality, yet they are different in so many ways, especially in regard to the 6 opulences the Supreme Lord, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has in full. So we have some minute part of the 6 opulences, that is, beauty, fame, knowledge, power, wealth, and renunciation. So everybody has maybe a little bit of that. Some of those we don't have at all. Krishna has all of them, and completely. No one has. Don't put your fingers in your mouth. Go wash your hands. No one has them completely except Krishna. So that's another thing that differentiates Krishna from all of us. And because of that, his name is Krishna. He's all attractive. Another meaning of Krishna is that he can take you out of ignorance, right? Because of his all attractiveness. So we are one in quality because we have a soul that's part and parcel of Krishna. Mamayavamsa, Jiva Loka, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, Manaksastan Indriyani Pakritistani Karsati, right? Mama Eva Amsa, we are the part and parcel, the fragmented part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, we are of the same nature as the Lord. Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. But our Vigraha is infinitesimally small, and Krishna's Vigraha is infinitely great. But if we associate with Krishna instead of remaining fragmented from Krishna, then we can experience infinite life, infinite consciousness. Just like if you are riding a bicycle, how fast can you go on a bicycle? You know how fast you can go on a bicycle? That's a good guess. That's if you're really pedaling hard and going downhill. You can do it. How much? Well, that's if you're going uphill. Yeah. So, yeah, you can go about 20, maybe 25 miles an hour, right? But if you pedal your bicycle to SeaTac Airport and onto the runway and right into a Boeing 777 expanded jet, that's the big one that can carry 400 people, right? And the jet takes off, you're still riding around because they took all the seats out so you could ride your bicycle in the airplane. So you're still riding around the airplane maximum 20 miles an hour, but mostly less than that. But the airplane is going 550 miles an hour. So how fast are you going then? How fast are you going? No. I mean, the cabin is pressurized. No, not really. You don't feel it that much. Believe me. Are you slammed against the back of the airplane and when you stand up and walk to the bathroom?
I'm talking about when you take off.
Okay, maybe when you take off, yeah, it's a little bit wobbly. Not wobbly, but you could sort of go backwards. But the cabin is pressurized to avoid extreme, let's say you were a World War II parachute Marine in an old B-52 bomber or a B-29, and the door is open, right? The door is open because you're going to jump out at 10,000 feet. If you don't have the seatbelt on, you could get blown out, without anything on. That's how powerful, because it's not pressurized. But because it's pressurized, it sort of, gives you some relief from all that movement. Anyway, So we're one in quality, but we're different in so many ways, especially in regard to the 6 opulences the Supreme Personality of Godhead has in full. Full knowledge means that the Jivatma, the living entity, must know both his position and the Supreme's position. That is full knowledge. So, let's make a promise today. I'm going to try and get full knowledge. This is like Al-Qaeda, you know, they raise a finger like this, right? But we're not Al-Qaeda, we're Hare Krishna. You know. I'm going to try and study to get full knowledge. That doesn't mean learning Big Bang. That doesn't mean learning we all come from monkeys. That doesn't mean learning that there are dark holes in the universe. That doesn't mean learning all kinds of nonsensical things. It means that we should study this one verse, 4th chapter, 20th, 4th canto, 20th chapter, verse number 7. Right? You only have to study one thing. You don't have to study many things. 4th chapter, canto, 20th chapter, 8th verse. This is your homework for next week. Okay, Arush? What's your homework for next week? Excellent. 4th canto, 20th chapter, 8th verse, right? Read the purport and make an outline. You make a line like this. On this side is Krishna, and this side is us. And you compare the two. All right? That's what this purport does. So what's your homework for next week? Perfect. What's your homework for next week?
Read the 4th canto, 20th chapter, 8th verse, compare Krishna and
Yeah, very good. You gonna make sure your daughter does it? You gonna tell his father to do it? He's not. He might be downstairs. Okay. Yeah. Right. You gonna make sure your son does it? You can't make him? Yeah, you'll help him. Okay. I said, are you gonna make sure he does it? So I didn't say you have to force him. You know.
Well, if I make sure that he does it, then I have to force him to do it if he wants, right?
Well, let's hope you don't have to force him. Yeah. Okay. So, full knowledge means that the Jiva Atma, the living entity, must know both his position and the Supreme's position. That is full knowledge. By the way, I'm going to do the homework also. It's not that you're the only ones doing it. I'm also going to do it for next week. Okay, now we'll go to text 8, or verse number 8. Although within the material nature, one who is thus situated in full knowledge of the Paramatma and Atma is never affected by the modes of material nature, for he is always situated in my transcendental loving service. Okay, now let's repeat this verse. Ready? 1. Although within the material nature. 1, meaning a person. A person who is thus situated in full knowledge. Okay, a person who is thus situated in full knowledge. Repeat. Of the Paramatma and Atma. Who's the Atma? Who's the Paramatma? Yes. Is never affected by the modes of material nature. For he or she is always situated in my transcendental loving service. Question. How do you rise above the influence of the modes of material nature? Who knows? Arush? Excellent, Arush. Boy, you're getting really sharp, Arush. Very good. Yes, by engaging in devotional service, you rise up above the influence of the modes of material nature. That means you become transcendental in this world. You don't have to sprout wings and fly up to the spiritual world to be transcendental. You're transcendental now, here and now. But it's not that easy. You have to make an effort. What's the effort you have to make, Arush? Huh? Huh? Yeah, always engaged in devotional service. 24 hours a day. So let's say you're working, you're going to school, you go to soccer practice. Is it possible to be 24 hours engaged in Krishna service by doing those things? Huh? You say no? You say no. You say yes. The answer is yes. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
I can't help thinking of the verse in Bhagavad Gita where it says, "Yakoshia Vaishnati Yashtoshita Yasukasya."
Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever charity you perform, whatever tapasya or austerities you perform, do it as an offering for me. Well, yes, but wherever you go, if you think of Krishna and you talk about Krishna, doesn't matter you go to soccer practice or you go to dance class or you go to the library, as long as you're always thinking of Krishna and every chance you get talk about Krishna, you are Krishna conscious. And you will not be affected by the modes. Of course, if you get really involved in soccer and somebody trips you and you get up and you get really angry, you want to beat that guy up, then you lost it. Right? You're no longer Krishna conscious. But it's possible to be Krishna conscious in this world always by being engaged, as you said, yat karosi yadasnasi, or everything you do, you offer the result to Krishna. So, I mean, let's give an example. Like there's this one guy named Tebow. You ever hear of Tebow? Well, he was a football player, a very good footballer. Huh? Yeah, I guess, I don't know his first name. I guess, okay, you know who he is. So now he's a baseball player, right? The same person, right? So, he was, he stopped playing football because they got on his case. Why did he get on his case? Why did they harass him? Because every game he would, before the game or after the game, he would bow down on his knee and pray to God. Yeah.
It's funny because now you have these
Now they get down on their knee.
and everyone's like, oh yeah, this is so wonderful, except for you have people who disagree and agree on everything.
Well, they do that for a political reason, but he would get down and on both knees and he would pray to God. And then other people would come around him also, some of the other team members, and they got really upset that he was doing this.
In different sides. So when Team Tebow got down on one knee, then the conservatives were like, yes, this is right, great. And the liberals were like, no, you shouldn't do this, you're mixing things. And now it's the opposite.
This is something in Christian belief, Prabhuji, to go down?
Yeah, yeah,
So they also go down?
yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you go to Catholic Church during the service, there's a period where you bow down. Well, they don't bow down like Dandavat, but they get down on their knees and they pray.
And they also hold hands?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah.
So why do they ask us exactly that what is Namaste then? I didn't know
Who?
this question. Most of the Christians, they ask people, I mean, they ask what is
Christian preachers, when they're preaching, sometimes they'll go like this. Yeah. This is, No, it's not just the Hindus that do that. The Christians do it.
Islam, we don't stop.
But that's because they want to get many blessings from God. Give me this, give me that. So they hold their hands out. Right? Yeah. But the Christians they do it. A lot of Christians do like this. It's not a strange thing. Okay. Yeah. So Thibaut was, he and then he was dating this one girl, and he wanted to get married, but she left him because he refused to have any intimate relationship with her before marriage. You say, so he's a bad guy. People make fun of him because he's trying to follow Christianity. Okay, so now we're on verse number 8. Although within the material nature, one who is thus situated in full knowledge of the Paramatma and Atma is never affected by the modes of material nature, for he is always situated in my transcendental loving service. So this is basically the same as 1426. Who knows 1426? Bhagavad Gita. Mam chayo vibicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunam samatityaitan. There you go. One who always engages in devotional service and never falls down under any circumstance, at once transcends the influence of material nature and Brahma Bhuya Kalpate, comes up to the level of Brahman. Level of Brahman means they become fully engaged in devotional service. It doesn't mean you merge into Brahman, like the Mayavadis. Coming up to the level of Brahman means you're fully engaged in devotional service all the time, and you're no longer influenced by the modes of material nature, no longer influenced by anger, lust, greed, illusion, envy, and madness. You become transcendental because you're always engaged and never fall down under any circumstance. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in this material world, he is not affected by the modes of material nature. Similarly, those who are always connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though they be within the material body or the material world, are not affected by the material qualities. That is explained very nicely in Bhagavad Gita. Mam chayo vibicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunam samatityaitan brahma bhuya kalpate. See, Prabhupada quotes that verse there, right? One who is unflinchingly engaged in the devotional service of the Lord surpasses the material qualities and attains Brahman realization. And no, don't forget, Brahman realization does not mean just understanding the Brahma Jyoti. It means you understand Vadanti tattvavitas tattvam yajganamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. You understand that the Supreme Absolute Truth is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Three things. It's not, so the Mayavadis, they only have partial knowledge of the truth. And even that partial knowledge, they got it wrong also. Brahman realization is understanding Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his Paramatma expansion, and his expansion as the Brahma Jyoti. So now we're on verse number 9. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, continued, my dear King Prithu, when one situated in his occupational duty engages in my loving service without motive for material gain, he gradually becomes very satisfied within. So now, if you want to attain satisfaction, just like there's a song, I can't get no satisfaction. You ever hear that song? Yeah, famous song by, what was it? I forget. Mick Jagger. I forget his band. Anyway, in the material world, no one's getting satisfaction. You know anybody that's completely satisfied? Do you know any devotees that are completely satisfied?
Except you, Prabhupada,
No, don't put me in.
no, but I haven't.
Yeah, no, but here's the formula for becoming completely satisfied. It's a very special thing. One who's situated in his occupational duty. What does that mean? Occupational duty. You know what that means? Yes. What's varnashram? You have the varnas and the ashramas. So occupational duty are the varnas. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. Right? So one who is engaged, or one who is situated in his or her occupational duty, and engages in my loving devotional service without motive for material gain. So what does that imply? If it says, if I tell you, chant Hare Krishna without material desire in your mind, that means what? That implies something. What does it imply?
Like, do for nothing.
No, it implies, well, it could imply, no, it doesn't imply that. It implies that some people do chant with material desires in their mind. You see what I mean? So here it's saying, when one situated in his occupational duty engages in my loving service without motive for material gain, what is this implying? Yeah, people do engage in devotional service with motive for material gain. Therefore, it says, when one is situated in his occupational duty engages in my loving service without motive for material gain, he gradually becomes very satisfied within. So, now what does this imply? If you engage in devotional service with desire for material gain, will you gradually become very satisfied within? No. You'll never get satisfied. You see?
But Prabhuji, like in the beginning, stage, how will someone know that they are getting materially motivated to do devotional service also?
This is why you need Shiksha and Diksha gurus. You cannot figure it out on your own. Unless you get help. How can you figure out that you're doing devotional service for material gain? It's almost impossible to figure out. Yes?
One way that I found is very good barometer to know whether or not you have some material desire is if your taste for chanting and service increases. Because if that increases, then the others will increase.
Yeah, but still, material gain is something very subtle. It's not gross only. It's also very subtle. Like, for example, if you saw a yogi meditating underwater for 10,000 years, like Sobari, you ever hear this? It's in the 9th canto. It's his story. Sobari Muni. He was meditating. Let's say you saw him in the 5,000th year. He was meditating under. Would you say that he was engaged in that severe austerity for material gain? And you know that he's been there 5,000 years underwater, holding his breath, meditating. You wouldn't be able to tell. Oh, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. Meditating underwater for 5,000 years is not impressive? I'm afraid to ask you what is impressive. Yeah, but look, I can show you Mayavadis who were always happy, but then they got caught doing illicit things. But it looked like it. Just like it looks like Sobari Muni, after 5,000 years underwater, and he's going to stay another 5,000 years underwater, was not interested in material sense gratification.
It's not just meditating that in and of itself, and you're talking about Mayavadi, but if you sit down and you talk to a Mayavadi within 5 minutes, you can tell that they're cuckoo brains.
Well, yes, if they start talking Mayavad philosophy, but usually they're very clever. They just act nice, and they smile a lot, and they talk about love and they talk about peace, you know.
How can you love something you have no connection with?
Who knows what real love is? Do you know anybody knows what real love is?
Real love is unconditional service.
I know, but how many people will say that?
That's the real impressive. Not expect result, not expect any material result. Even Lord Chaitanya says that, right?
Yes, but how many people will say that? Like for example, let's say we'll get a personal example here. Let's say your husband never gave you anything. Would you still stay with him? He never gave you anything. No car, no washing machine, no money, no food on the table.
That depends on your expectations. If you started your relationship out knowing that that's what it was, then that's what you're expecting. If one day you just stop.
Well, let's take that second case. One day you just stop. Of course, I'm not trying to make, I'm just trying to make a point. This has nothing to do with any personal thing. Let's say one day you just stopped.
Staying with somebody is also, I mean, I deal with people all the time, they're still married, but they don't have a conventional living situation. So when you say stay, do you mean it's not being divorced, or what do you mean?
Well, I mean, in other words, okay, let's take this first case. Before you got married, if he told you, I'm not going to do anything for you, I'm not going to give you money, I'm not going to do anything, would you get married? Right. See, that's my point. So you have a certain expectation that this person will maintain me, and
It's also further than that, though. It's not just giving you material things. If I'm married, I've seen a lot of people who got married because they felt inspired by the person that they wanted to marry. So it's also spiritual knowledge and inspiration. So if you're saying they're giving you nothing, no spiritual mission, I don't think that relationship would work very well.
right. Well, Parvati is a married woman whose husband does nothing for her. Absolutely nothing. Shiva doesn't give her anything. And she's always attached to him because he's a good person. He's always meditating, and he's always trying to help, especially the lowest people in the universe, trying to help them become. Well, he gives good advice, that's true. But, she doesn't have a washing machine, but people pray to her to get all those things, and she gives it to them. But she herself she doesn't have a house. She lives out in the forest with her husband. There's no house, there's no washing machine, nothing.
There's different, I mean, there's that story where she was taking a bath. So where is she taking a bath then if she has no house?
Yeah, in the river.
No, but she had privacy, and then he came. You know the story.
No, but we're talking about Parvati. Yeah, but in general, they're living out in the forest, and there's nothing. He doesn't give her anything. Yeah. Anyway, the idea here is that how do we gain satisfaction within? See, and this is explained extensively in the Bhagavad Gita. In the third chapter, it says, third chapter, verse number 18, Naivatasya kritenarto. It says, a self-realized person has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his or her prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being. And Prabhupada explains in the purport, a self-realized man is no longer obliged to perform any prescribed duty, save and except activities in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not inactivity either, as will be explained in the following verses. A Krishna conscious man does not take shelter of any person, man or demigod. Obviously, it takes shelter of Krishna, who's not an ordinary person or a demigod. Whatever he does in Krishna consciousness is sufficient in the discharge of his obligation. And then the next verse, Tasmad asakta satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hi acharan karma param apnoti purushaha. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. So this is the question. What does it mean, working as a matter of duty? Like, let's say two people get married. Is their connection due to love? Well, if it is, it's a very tenuous connection. Tenuous means shaky, because there can be many issues that they disagree on after they're married, and that could cause separation, or at least a neutral relation. They don't really get along, but they just sort of stay together, hang out. Right? Now, but if you get married as a matter of duty, it's different. What does duty mean? It's something you cannot stop doing. You're obliged to do it. Like a policeman is obliged in certain circumstances to take out his gun and use it if necessary. And if he doesn't do it, like the two or three policemen that were in that school in Florida, I think there was three, but there's definitely one. He didn't do anything. He heard the shooting going on. He didn't do anything, probably because he was afraid. So, duty means you can't avoid doing it. You're obliged to do it. So if you get married as a matter of duty, and both husband and wife understand that, then they'll stay together, for better or for worse. But if you get married because of love, it's very possible that love turns into hate, because hate is the flip side of love. Say, I hate you, I love you. It's just two sides of the same coin. What is the coin? The coin means the relationship is based on the body. That's the coin. So one side of that body relationship, I love you. The other side of body relationship, I hate you. As long as the purpose of marriage is sense gratification, the love can flip into hate. And it's not real love anyway, it's lust. But if you get married as a matter of duty, what is the duty? Duty to what? Duty to the vow that you took in front of Krishna. Then there's no separation. And it's a much stronger vow, that both the husband and wife have a vow, dutiful vow, to follow Krishna consciousness. And they choose to do it together. Therefore, if they take it seriously, it's an unbreakable, let's say, connection. So here, it's in the purport, Prabhupada says, this is 3rd chapter, verse 19. We started with verse 18. The Supreme is the personality of Godhead for the devotees, and liberation for the impersonalists. A person, therefore, acting for Krishna or in Krishna consciousness, does under proper guidance and without attachment to the result of the work, is certainly making progress toward the supreme goal of life. So what does this imply? It says, let me read it again and tell me what it implies. A person, therefore, acting for Krishna or in Krishna consciousness under proper guidance and without attachment to the result of the work is certainly making progress toward the supreme goal of life. Is that person who works with attachment to the result making gradual progress toward the supreme goal of life? Wrong. He's not, that person is not making progress. Yes.
We have the example of Dhruva Maharaj, that he did all those austerities, and then he always was asked what he wants. And he said, well, I wanted a kingdom, but now I don't want a kingdom anymore. So,
Yeah.
under the guidance of his guru, he was was able to give up his material desire. But Krishna gave it to him anyway.
Well, here's the point, that he didn't really give it up. See, what is the position of a Brahma? A Brahma is a person that's the best devotee in the universe, but still has the latent desire to dominate. Therefore, they're given the position of Brahma. But after dominating for a very, very long time, that desire becomes purified and they go back to Godhead, if they follow correctly. So, even though Dhruva Maharaj was overwhelmed by the beauty of Lord Vishnu, he still had some desire to dominate. Therefore, he was given an eternal planet in the material world with the presence of the Lord. Yes. What? When you fall down from the spiritual world, you start out by being a Brahma. And then either you go up or down. Usually people go down. Right. But if you, once you're in the material world, if you go back to Godhead, then you never come back again. Now I'll give you an example so you understand this. Let's say a friend of yours says, let's play this game. I put my hands out like this, and then you put your hands on top, and then I'll try and hit you. You ever play that game? No. One person puts their hands like this on the bottom, and the other person puts their hands on top. And then you have to try and hit, the person on the bottom has to try and hit the hand. You ever play that game? No? You never played that game? You did, right? Yeah. So usually there's a way of cheating in that game. That is, let's say you hit the other person's hand. So now you get to put your hands on top, and he puts his hands down. But before you put your hands down, he already hits you. You see. So the next time, would you make that mistake? Yeah, you'd say, look, you can't hit my hand before my hand touches your hand. If you do that, you're cheating. You see? So you wouldn't make the mistake twice unless, you're not paying attention. So if you go back to Godhead after coming to the material world, it's impossible to fall down again. You wouldn't make that mistake twice, because the experience in the material world is so bad. Like, for example, let's say when you were only 4 years old. How old are you now? 9. When you're 4 years old, you were playing with matches, right? And somehow or other, your coat got on fire. And before you could take it off, it really burned your hand and your arm really bad. Would you play with matches again? That's it. That's why I'm saying, if you're in the material world and you go back to Godhead, you'll never come back again. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Radha.
Brajabaranagara Yashamati Nandana Brajabaranagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Gokula Ranjana Kana Gopi Paranadana Madana Manohara Gopi Paranadana Madana Manohara Kaliya Damana Vidana Kaliya Damana Vidana Amala Harinama Miya Vilasa Amala Harinama Miya Vilasa Vipina Purandara Navina Nagara Bara Vipina Purandara Navina Nagara Bara Om Shivadana Suvasa Vam Shivadana Suvasa Rajajana Palana Surakula Nachana Rajajana Palana Surakula Nachana Nanda Godana Rakawala Nanda Godana Rakawala Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Sundara Nanda Gopala Sundara Nanda Gopala Yamuna Tata Jara Gopi Vasanahara Yamuna Tata Jara Gopi Vasanahara Nasarasika Kripa Maya Nasarasika Kripa Maya Chirada Vallabha Vrindavana Natabara Chirada Vallabha Vrindavana Natabara Yashamati Nandana Brajabara Nagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Smell it. Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Sitaram Jaya Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Sitaram Jaya Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Nrsingadev Jaya Nrsingadev Jaya Nrsingadev Jaya Nrsingadev Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo
It broke? Is this new?
Seems to be new.
How did it break? Is it okay?
But it's not on there.
Yeah, I'll get them.
Jai Shri Shri Radha Nirmala Ki.
I'll fix it.
Wait a minute, let's try this. Oh, see, it's the threads get broken. The threads get.
Yeah, I'll fix it. Just hold it. I'll get it.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So we'll finish up in a few minutes. So the reason why I told Pooja the answer was no is because as long as a person has material desire in the process of performing devotional service, they could very well refuse to follow the Guru's instructions. And that happens a lot. So one would have to be engaged all the time in devotional service without any lapse.
Probably all these theories are then meaningless, right? I mean, I know you always tell there is no meditation in Krishna consciousness, but all these theories that, oh, we should also take a break, get reset and all that, so that's, it's like 24 by 7. Every circumstance.
Have you ever heard that? What does the verse say? 14:26. Mam chayo vibhicharina. One who always engages in devotional service and does not fall down under any circumstance, rises above the influence and modes of material nature and comes back to me.
That negates completely all the
One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So that defeats the philosophy that, oh, well, sometimes you have to have a reset and you can, go Disneyland or La La Land. There's also La La Land. There's Disneyland and La La Land. And, or you can go to Sin City, Las Vegas for a vacation, and enjoy seeing all the four regulative principles broken in ecstasy, right? It looks like people are having a good time breaking the four regulative principles there. Okay, so anyway, coming back, what we were discussing, Tasmata Sakta Satatam, the Supreme is the personality of Godhead for devotees and liberation for the impersonalist. A person, therefore, acting for Krishna or in Krishna consciousness under proper guidance and without attachment to the result of the work is certainly making progress toward the supreme goal of life. Arjuna is told that he should fight in the battle of Kurukshetra for the interest of Krishna because Krishna wanted him to fight. To be a good man or non-violent man is a personal attachment. But to act on behalf of the Supreme is to act without attachment for the result. So it's coming back to the idea of duty. You're not attached to the result. You simply do what Krishna tells you to do. That is perfect action of the highest degree recommended by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. So what was, we go back to the original point, what is Arjuna's dilemma? Arjuna's dilemma is, although he can speak very nicely and give many seeming Krishna conscious arguments why he should not fight, but his internal, let's say, desire was to avoid the fighting because he didn't see how he would be happy whether he won or lost the battle. So it was a personal, it was due to a bodily conception of life, because he had bodily attachment to his relatives who were on both sides of the battlefield. he decided not to fight, meaning not to follow Krishna's direct order. So, here it says, to be a good man or a nonviolent man is a personal attachment. But to act on behalf of the Supreme is to act without attachment for the result. So the whole Bhagavad Gita is about convincing Arjuna to fight. Yes?
So when Krishna says there, without any attachment to results, I've always wondered that when you answer, does that also mean no spiritual attachment?
Well, wait a minute. No. The spiritual attachment is you're attached to Krishna. So if Krishna gives you the order to fight, then, and you fight, that means you have no material attachment.
So it's any attachment other than the
Yes. Yeah, of course.
spiritual attachment?
Well, spiritual attachment means, like, let's say you're attached to living in Vrindavan, and Krishna tells you, go to Kurukshetra and fight. You say, no, I don't want to leave Vrindavan. Now, is that what you're talking about? Is that a spiritual attachment?
So if you're attached to a spiritual result in that, you're going to feel some, I mean, I guess you could say it's a material thing, but it's also not a material thing. So like a more favorable situation for your Krishna consciousness. I guess it's like Vrindavan. Vrindavan's supposed to be very conducive to your spiritual.
Well, that's why I gave that example. Let's say you're attached to living in Vrindavan, and Krishna tells you, go to Kurukshetra and fight. And you would just say, oh, no, I can't, my Lord. I'm too attached to living in Vrindavan.
I'm talking about us. Krishna doesn't talk to me. So when you
How do you know he doesn't talk to you?
I'm not listening, so I wouldn't.
Okay.
Two ways of right communication. But the point is that, if Krishna is telling me something, how do I know the difference between what he's telling me and what my mind's telling me?
Well, that's why you have Shiksha and Diksha gurus.
So if your guru is telling me this, because he's telling me the material thing,
How could he be a guru if he tells you to do some material thing?
gurus are telling us to do material things. I mean, they're saying that the material thing is for our spiritual.
Okay, what? Give an example what you mean by a guru is telling you to do a material thing. Is that, well, is that a material thing? I mean, here it says in the 6th chapter, 1st verse, it says, Anasrita karma phalam, karyam karma karutiya, sasanyasi cha yogi cha na niragnir na chakriyaha. The Supreme Personality Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is a true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. So, again, we're talking about dutiful action. That is, if someone's a sannyasi and they say, I don't ever tell anyone to get married, that's nonsense, then this is saying that's not working as you're obligated to work. If your disciple is someone who would be more, let's say, prone to be Krishna conscious if they were married, and you say, don't get married, that's not right.
Well, that happens a lot, but the point that I'm trying to get the question and answer about is, how do we know when something is spiritual and something's material?
Something spiritual will bring you closer to Krishna. Something material will take you farther away from Krishna.
But Krishna is also, every time when we're talking about, Mamchi or Bhagavad, we're talking about the level of Brahman. So going back to Godhead is, if we're doing devotional service, we're always with Krishna anyway. It's not a physical thing. So my question is, how do we know what external situation we should be attached to, whether we know it's spiritual? And you're saying it's the Guru is telling us. But sometimes the Guru tells us to do things, and we don't really understand.
Well, first of all, the Guru is not going to tell you to jump off a bridge. Yeah. So, if Guru, mostly times, Gurus will say, well, you should chant your rounds better, come regularly to class, do service in the temple, and offer your food before you eat, right? So you say, well, but that doesn't answer my question. I wanted to know, should I jump out the window or not? And you'd say, well, if you do what I tell you, then you won't want to jump out the window, right? Right? So you see, most questions like this, how do I know that what the Guru is telling me is actually spiritual? Well, most of the time the Guru will say you should chant your rounds better. You should be more as strict as possible, following the regulative principles, and any, let's say, shortcoming in those things will lead to problems and confusion. So you want the confusion to go away, you want dualities to go away, you want to have a clear mind, then you have to become stricter with yourself, not stricter with others, but stricter with yourself in following the normal process of devotee life. It means you have to go to bed early, wake up early, that way you'll have time to chant your rounds nicely, and you'll be able to take care of your family obligations also. But if you go to bed late, wake up late, and not be able to chant your rounds all day long, and always be trying to do catch-up, then obviously you're going to have a lot of problems. So it's all about regulated devotional service. And when the regulation is broken, then problems come. So lifestyle, whenever it is a question of healing, there's two aspects to healing. One is diet, and the other is lifestyle. So it's the same thing in devotional life. When there are problems, you have to regulate the eating and the lifestyle. Then you'll see you'll have the time to do everything. And those people who say, I don't have any time to do anything, I don't have time to chant my rounds, it's because they need a lifestyle adjustment. Right? Okay. A Guru is not going to, out of the blue say, well, you should get a divorce, or you should get married. Gurus will say, look, all the problems are solved by following Krishna consciousness. Now let's analyze how well you're following. Chanting your rounds, offering your food, and so forth. So when you get into the actual details of the lifestyle, then you'll see that there's some discrepancy. And if you fix that discrepancy, then the problem will go away also. Okay, so then Vedic rituals, like prescribed sacrifices, are performed for purification of impious activities that were performed in the field of sense gratification. But action in Krishna consciousness is transcendental to the reactions of good or evil work. A Krishna conscious person has no attachment for the result, but acts on behalf of Krishna alone. He engages in all kinds of activities, but is completely non-attached. So, the people that are performing Vedic rituals, it's because they're engaged in sinful activities sometimes, and they need to purify them. But their attachment is still there for sense gratification, which means after the ritual they'll probably engage in sinful activities again. Therefore, these regulated ritual practices are required. This is not necessary for a devotee who, by engaging full-time in devotional service, does not engage in sinful activities, and therefore does not have to perform these different Vedic sacrifices for purification. Like Satyanarayana Puja is one specific sacrifice that people perform, or should perform at least once a month, because they're engaged in sinful activities. But a devotee avoiding, who strictly follows the regulated principles, does not commit sinful activities. Therefore, they don't have to follow these rituals. Just like if someone dies in your family, in India, they'll tell you, you can't go to the temple for 1 month, don't chant Hare Krishna, don't do this, don't do that. So one lady asked me, she said, Prabhu, they called me from India, they told me I shouldn't come to the temple, I shouldn't chant Hare Krishna for 1 month. I said, don't listen to what they say. Oh, but it's my family, and they got the information from a pundit. I said, forget about it. He's a nundit, he's not a pundit. Because he's not taking into account that you're Krishna conscious. So if you're Krishna conscious, you don't have to stay away from the temple for 1 month and not chant Hare Krishna. Under no circumstance should you stop chanting Hare Krishna or staying away from the temple. So they don't understand, the Nandits don't understand the purifying power of the holy name and the Krishna conscious lifestyle of regulated devotional service. So people criticize it. Oh, you're not doing Ganapati Puja, you're not doing Lakshmi Puja, you're not doing Satyanarayana Puja, you guys are not real Hindus. Well, we don't have a problem with people who are materially inspired doing those things. That's actually better than just committing sins. But we don't have to do those things if we're strictly involved in devotional service. It doesn't mean that we discourage others. In fact, there's a verse here in the 3rd chapter, it says that you shouldn't discourage others from doing those things because they may be on a lower level of consciousness and those things are helpful to them. So as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. So, for people who are very materially attached, who are still committing sinful activities, then performing these ritual performances, fasting every Monday, fasting on Charvaghot, this thing, that thing, it's better than not doing it. So it's actually good for them, and we should never discourage them. But on the other hand, we don't have to follow those things, as long as we're strictly following Krishna consciousness. Okay, so what? Okay.
Even if they are attached or unattached, even if you don't worry about that, you still continue doing devotional service, that is good.
Yes. Yeah, that's what that verse says. Mam chayo vibhicharina. One who engages always in devotional service and does not fall down at any time. They transcend the influence of the modes of material nature. Okay, so the next verse says, kings such as Janaka attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating people in general, you should perform your work. So, even though a devotee does not have to perform all these self-interested rituals, but at least he should give an example of exceptionally good behavior and regulated devotional service to inspire others. And he should not refrain from, for example, recommending marriage, doing the marriage sacrifice, and so forth, for people who have certain attachments and they need a longer time to purify those attachments. And the purport says, kings like Janaka were all self-realized souls. Consequently, they had no obligation to perform the prescribed duties in the Vedas. When it says prescribed duties, it's talking mainly about the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. Nonetheless, they performed all prescribed activities just to set examples for the people in general. Janaka was the father of Sita and father-in-law of Lord Rama. Being a great devotee of the Lord, he was transcendently situated. But because he was the king of Mithila, a subdivision of Bihar province in India, he had to teach his subjects how to perform prescribed duties. Lord Krishna and Arjuna, the Lord's eternal friend, had no need to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra, but they fought to teach people in general that violence is also necessary in a situation where good arguments fail. Before the battle of Kurukshetra, every effort was made to avoid the war. Even by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the other party was determined to fight. So for such a right cause, there is a necessity for fighting. Although one who is situated in Krishna consciousness may not have any interest in the world, he still works to teach the public how to live and how to act. So you're talking about lifestyle and behavior. Yeah.
We're talking about the Prabhu was talking about Janaka, and remember the story, and he's a perfect example because he actually had to give, he was put in a position where he had to give instruction to Lord Ram whether or not he should go back to Ayodhya, and how when he did give his final verdict, he said, you know, if you can actually tell him to go, being that he has taken his vow, you're going to make him break his vow, then you can do that. That's your right according to duty. But
That's all right, let her finish.
so then, of course, they had to realize that when you really love somebody, then you don't expect anything of them. That's true love.
So you're saying Janaka told him that your duty is actually to go back to Ayodhya and become the king, right? Of course, Ram did not follow that.
Well, the choice was given to Bharata that, this is your right. You should go.
Oh, you should go become the king?
Actually asked him to do this, being that you actually love him. There was this expectation.
Okay, you talking about Bharata or you're talking about Lord Ramachandra? Who did Janaka advise?
Janaka told Ram
Yeah.
that because Bharata is so devoted to you, and he's asking you to do this is the highest duty for you.
But obviously Ram did not do that.
Ram didn't do that because
Yeah.
then when Bharata was given that, Bharata realized that when you actually, your highest duty is to love somebody unconditionally, as I was talking about earlier, then you can't expect anything of them. You have to let them do what they will do. It has to be-
Oh, so Bharat accepted that Ram was not coming back to Ayodhya right away.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So the point you're making is that Rama insisted that he didn't want to turn his father into a liar.
These are all duties.
Huh?
These are all duties.
Yeah, yes.
So who has the most?
So he was dutiful. And even though Bharat, and even though his own guru, Vasistha, also said he should go back, and others, he didn't. But eventually he did go back. But after, the battle of Ayodhya, of Lanka. Okay, so thus the leader's teaching should be based on the principles of such standard shastras. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Lord Krishna and Arjuna, the Lord's eternal friend, had no need to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra, but they fought to teach people in general that violence is also necessary in a situation where good arguments fail. Before the battle of Kurukshetra, every effort was made to avoid the war, even by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the other party was determined to fight. So for such a right cause, there is a necessity for fighting. Although one who is situated in Krishna consciousness may not have any interest in the world, he still works to teach the public how to live and how to act. Experienced persons in Krishna consciousness can act in such a way that others will follow, and this is explained in the following verse. So in the following verse, Yad yadacharati shestas tat tad evitaro kuru sapramanam kurute lokastad anavartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. And the purport Prabhupada says, people in general always require a leader who can teach the public by practical behavior. A leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself smokes. Lord Chaitanya said that a teacher should behave properly before he begins teaching. Now, this is a very important point. Apani bhakti sikaimu sabare. This was an important instruction Lord Chaitanya gave, and he said, Basically, he said, first you become perfect, and then you preach. What does that mean? That means that it's not that you're perfect in the sense that you never make a mistake, but you're perfect in the sense that you strictly follow the regulative principles and chant your rounds and do all the normal activities of a devotee in Krishna consciousness with regularity. Then your preaching has potency. You're able to convince people to chant Hare Krishna because you yourself are chanting and following. So, Acharya is an ideal teacher. Therefore, a teacher must follow the principles of Shastra, scripture, to teach the common man. The teacher cannot manufacture rules against the principles of revealed scriptures. The revealed scriptures like Manu Samhita and similar others are considered the standard books to be followed by human society. Thus, the leader's teaching should be based on the principles of such standard shastras. One who desires to improve himself must follow the standard rules as they are practiced by the great teachers. The Srimad Bhagavatam also affirms that one should follow in the footsteps of great devotees, and that is the way of progress on the path of spiritual realization. The king or the executive head of a state, the father, and the school teacher are all considered to be natural leaders of the innocent people in general. All such natural leaders have a great responsibility to their dependents. Therefore, they must be conversant with standard books of moral and spiritual codes. Okay, so again, we're talking about duty. One has a duty. If they take initiation, what do they promise? They promise to strictly follow the 4 regulative principles and chant minimum 16 rounds per every day. And so, what are those principles? No meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, and chanting minimum 16 rounds every day. So this is what one promises to do at the point of initiation. Our duty is not so many other things. It's mainly these things. And we should be very clear about that. That when we make that promise at initiation, it's a solemn promise. And if we follow it, we will be successful in preaching. And if we don't follow it, we'll never be successful. So then lastly, this is the end of that section of this 3rd chapter. It's that's talking about duty as opposed to other lesser reasons for doing things, such as material love, which is actually lust, or whatever. So now we'll just finish up. Yes.
Is preaching is kind of evangelism?
Okay, the word evangelism is from the Bible. Evangelism means good news in Hebrew. So evangelism is spreading the good news. Right? What's the good news according to the New Testament? That Jesus died on the cross for your sins, and then he resurrected from the dead and stayed amongst mankind for 40 days, and then ascended to heaven, to the right side of his Father, Krishna. Right? So that's why his name is Christ, or Christos, or Christa, which comes from the word Krishna. So anyway, that's called the good news. So you're out there spreading good news by preaching. The Lord Chaitanya came to this world, and he never says, don't do this. He simply says, please chant Hare Krishna. And if you chant Hare Krishna, you will attain perfection in this lifetime.
Muslim people, they appreciate their religion. Christians, they do their thing. Then what's the difference when we go out and preach?
Our thing is not a religion. It's pure spirituality. A religion is something that begins in time and ends in time, and it's usually understood as a type of faith. Krishna consciousness is a science. It's not a type of faith. Yes, Arush. What? Okay. All right, go ahead. Ask your question. Usually you shouldn't change the topic, but go ahead. What's your question? Yes, that's not a stick. It's called the Garuda Stamba. Why do you what? Why do you need it? Yes. Because Lord Chaitanya, when he would enter the temple of Jagannath, he would stand next to it all the time and look at the deities. So that we remember that by putting the Garuda Stamba there. It's when you have darshan, first darshan is from the Garuda Stamba. Okay. So when one day he was taking his regular darshan, he was standing next to Garuda Standa, and an older lady ran into the temple. She was so excited, she climbed up on the shoulders of Lord Chaitanya to be able to see Jagannath, because he's very big, he's 7 feet tall. You know? So he was sort of in the way, so he just climbed up on his shoulders. And the devotees freaked out, but Lord Chaitanya just smiled and said, no, leave her, don't touch her. You know, she's very excited about seeing Lord Chaitanya. Okay, so this is the last thing we're going to read. So this verse that we just read about being fully satisfied by staying in one's occupational duty, situated in one's occupational duty, but engaging in loving service without motive for material gain, then one becomes satisfied within. So now the purport is, this verse is also confirmed by the Vishnu Purana. Occupational duties are known as Varnashrama Dharma and apply to the 4 divisions of material and spiritual life, namely Brahmanas, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, material, and Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas, spiritual. If one works according to the Varnashram Dharma system and does not desire fruitive results, he gets satisfaction gradually. Discharging one's occupational duty as a means of rendering devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. Okay, so if anyone asks you, what is the purpose of life? You can say, working according to the Varnashram Dharma system, but without desire for personal material benefit, then one gets gradual satisfaction. So if one discharges their duties according to the Varnashram Dharma system, their occupational duties, whether one is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Sudra, and that is your means of rendering devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, you give the result of that to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the ultimate goal of life. Bhagavad Gita confirms this as the process of karma yoga. So karma yoga can be done in 2 ways. Karma yoga can be done with attachment to the result, or karma yoga can be done purely simply offering everything to Krishna, the result to Krishna. When karma yoga is performed without attachment to the result and offering the result to Krishna, that's called pure bhakti. But when it's done with attachment to the result, it's called karma yoga. And one is not liberated by performing that type of karma yoga, but they may be gradually elevated to the point of bhakti yoga if they are guided by a bona fide guru. They may be. If they don't get the proper guidance, then they remain a karma yogi, and everything they're doing is basically a waste of time, because they will not become liberated from the cycle of karma. But at least they're following it in a religious sense, right? Discharging one's occupational duty as a means of rendering devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. Bhagavad Gita confirms this as the process of karma yoga. In other words, we should act only for the satisfaction and service of the Lord. Otherwise, we will be entangled by the resultant actions. Yajnartat karmano nyatra lokomam karma bandhanai. Tadaratam karma konteya mukta sangha samachara. So this is 3rd chapter, 28th verse. Oh no, I'm sorry, 3rd chapter, 9th verse, which says that one should perform all activities for Vishnu. And if one doesn't, one becomes entangled in the karma band, the entanglement of karmic reactions. Jai Shri Shri Radha Nila Madhava Ki Jai. Everyone is situated in his occupational duty, but the purpose of material occupations should not be material gain. Rather, everyone should offer the results of his occupational activities to the Lord. A Brahmana especially should execute his occupational duties not for material gain, but to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra should work in a similar way. In this material world, everyone is engaged in various professional and occupational duties, but the purpose of such activities should be to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Devotional service is very simple, and anyone can adopt it. Let one remain what he is. He need only install the deity of the Supreme Lord in his house. The deity may be Radha Krishna or Lakshmi Narayana. There are many other forms of the Lord. In this way, a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Sudra can worship the deity with the results of his honest labor. Regardless of one's occupational duty, one should adopt a devotional means of hearing, chanting, remembering, worshiping, offering everything to the Lord, and engaging in his service. In this way, one can very easily engage himself in the service of the Lord. When the Lord is pleased with one's service, one's mission in life is fulfilled. This is the main theme of what we talked about today. This last 2 lines of this text number 9, Canto 4, Chapter 20, verse 9. Regardless of one's occupational duty, one should adopt a devotional means of hearing, chanting, remembering, worshiping, offering everything to the Lord, and engaging in his service. In this way, one can very easily engage himself in the service of the Lord. When the Lord is pleased with one's service, one's mission in life is fulfilled. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi. Haribol Jai. Thank you very much.